Thanks everyone for coming tonight. I know it's been a hard week. We have 2 debates this week, but I know we're running a little bit late, but we're ready to go. I asked Pastor Thomas Cole to come lead us in prayer and our pledge. Thomas.
All right, let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight, Lord. We just thank you for the opportunity to come before you and approach your throne once again. Lord, I pray for this debate tonight, God. I pray that everything that will be said and done be pleasing in your sight. Father, I pray for all of our candidates that are running for office, God, for whatever their office might be, that they'll seek wisdom from you, and you grant them that wisdom that they stand in need of to lead this county in the direction that it needs to go. Father, we thank you for the blessings on this county and how we've grown. And Father, we just praise you for that. But above all things, God, we thank you for your Son, Jesus. It's in his name I pray. Amen. Amen.
All right, I'm going to do a few introductions and then I'm going to turn it over to our moderator. Oh, excuse me.
Let's all pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, Thomas didn't do that. We're very privileged tonight with some of our panelists over here that will be asking questions for our school board. We have, on the end down here, we have Scott Johnson. Scott is the Senior Vice President of Financial Supermarkets, Inc., a financial service consulting firm. He is the former chairman of the 11th District Republican Party and the Cobb County Republican Party. He serves on the State Board of Education and is currently the chairman of the State Board. Next we have Fred Gill. He serves on the Cartersville-Bartow Chamber of Commerce Executive Committee for 6 years as Vice Chairman of Business and Industry, Vice Chairman of Community, and in 2011 was Chairman of the Board. Fred currently serves on the Bartow County Board of Education and recently was selected one of 15 school board members, superintendents, and teachers to go to the White House to talk to President Trump on school security. Leslie McPherson is our next. She serves as a city council person with the Villa Rica City, and she worked on the Ted Cruz campaign. And any other great, wonderful stuff? That's good. She says, all right, I'm going to introduce you to my moderator, and then he can introduce you to our candidates. Our moderator is Louis Hunter from Cobb County, and Louis is Principal Honor of Network Georgia, a governmental affairs firm, serves as a Cobb County Board of Commissioner with Bill Byrne, served as Ted Cruz grassroots co-chair for the state of Georgia, been heavily involved in state and local politics for over 20 years. So I give you, Mr.
Good evening. This is my second one this week. Some of you were here for the first one, and it went very well. We're not going to be super strict on rules. We want everybody to get their thoughts out, and if they run a little bit over, we'll give the other folks their chance too. We will start with questions from the panelists. They'll just hand the microphone down. Each one of you will get a minute to respond. If you get called out personally, it's kind of my discretion to whether to keep the ball rolling or whatever. Really good debate on Tuesday. It was friendly, it was informative, and I don't expect anything less tonight. So with that, we'll start with 2-minute openings from each candidate, and then we'll jump right into the questions. Ladies first. I apologize.
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Stacy Failinger. I have been a Paulding County resident since 2003. I've been married for 21 years. I have 2 kids that are 12 and 9. My 12-year-old is a 7th grader at Sammy McClure Middle School, and my 9-year-old is a 4th grader at Fort Hickory Elementary School. So obviously, as a parent, my kids' education is very much a top priority for me. I have a bachelor's degree in political science, and I have an associate degree in legal assistance. I've been a paralegal for 24 years, and in 2013, I left corporate America and started my own virtual paralegal business. Then in 2016, I decided to obtain my health coaching certification, and now I started a new career as a health coach. As for leadership roles, I currently serve as a co-leader for a networking group. It's called Experience Connections. This is a ladies-only networking group. It's a business networking group that meets once a month. Now, I decided to run for school board because I would like to be involved in deciding what policies and procedures affect our children. Our children are our future leaders of our country. I also like to be a voice for both the teachers and the people of our community and welcome open discussion of issues facing our school system today. I look forward to hearing your questions tonight and providing you with a clear understanding of my perspective.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Dean. I was talking with my son last night and I told him how nervous I was. And he said, "Dad, you talk to Marines all the time." I said, "Yeah, but I walk on the stage and say, 'Good morning, Marines,' and they go, 'Hoorah.' I go up here tonight and you guys are going to say, 'Who are you?'" Anyway, my name is John Dean. I've lived in the county for about almost 30 years. I've been in our current house for 21 years. I've got my wife and daughter and son-in-law out in the audience out here supporting me tonight. I have 3 children, a son and 2 daughters. One daughter is actually a teacher here in Paulding County. I have 10 grandchildren. Not that you can tell it by my hair, but 3 of them have graduated from Paulding County, and 2 are currently in the Paulding County school system. I also have a granddaughter that is on the Paulding County Sheriff's Department. And we've got a long line of teachers in our family, and I feel like I've got a vested interest in Paulding. It's the reason that I decided to run. Everybody says, well, this is not right, that's not right. People don't even vote, much less run for office. So I decided that I would run for office this year. I am retired from the United States Marine Corps. I had 30 years in. I retired as a division sergeant major. I had 1 combat tour. And actually, it was done as a reserve, by the way, not on active duty. I retired as a 4th Division Sergeant Major. I also retired from Lockheed Martin, and I have a master's degree in aeronautical science with a specialty in management. I've worked in different areas, like flight test on the F-22 and C-130 program. At the end of my career, right before I retired, I was in risk management and program manager. And so I just want to bring some new ideas, some new leadership, and some new approaches to how we manage our schools and our budgets. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Annatarde, and I'm running for District 6 School Board. My wife and I, we've been married about 11 years. I'm a native of Atlanta. I have 3 young daughters. 2 at Shelton Elementary, and I'll have another one in kindergarten next year. My background, I've graduated from Georgia State University and also Georgia Tech, so you don't have to hold that against me. Except for, anyway. But having grown up here in Georgia and been here for the last 11 years here in Paulding County, we've seen a lot of the growth, we've seen a lot of the changes. Having been involved here in the community, and it's kind of humbling seeing this debate here at Chattahoochee Tech, where I serve on the Board of Trustees, wanting to see a better tomorrow, and the students that are going through our school system at the K-12 level having the opportunity to succeed and maybe start their own company, go to college, or make a better life for their family. So I'm here running to basically fight for those families that have not had that chance to take our school system to the next level, being more innovative, providing new leadership, and fighting for our teachers that I think deserve more than somebody that's going to fight for them. So I look forward to the discussion tonight, and look forward to talking to you more and learning what's important to you.
Okay, now is where we get to the good part. We'll get to the questioning. If you would, kindly hold your applause in between. I know you're going to want to at times because, been there, done that. But that'll help us move the process along, and it's a little less intimidating for the other folks getting ready to speak if they're not following that. So with that, we're going to start with Scott Johnson and let him ask the first question. And thank you very much.
It's working. Okay, thank you. Well, welcome, candidates, and I'm honored to be here with you. We may all be from different counties, not Paulding, and that's a good thing because we don't have a dog in this fight. But I will tell you, I do have a grandson that goes to school in your district, District 6. So this is has some personal relevance to me. I'm going to start. My first question is, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing Paulding schools today, and how do you think you as a board member could work to address it?
Thanks, Scott. I think the biggest challenge facing Paulding County schools right now is, quite frankly, the lack of resources that teachers have and the limited budget that, excuse me, I think our school system has to operate as one thing. We do not have a lot of industry in this county. We're the 13th largest school system in the state of Georgia. I think we spend roughly about, we're the 152nd out of 180 schools in what we spend per pupil compared to other school systems in the state. And it's only getting harder. Teachers are having to do more with less. I know the budgeting process is the same, but at the same time, we're continuing to see greater challenges with the lack of technology and other things in the classroom. And I think secondly, the other important thing on people's minds is school safety. I think we need to have an open, transparent dialogue about what does that mean for each school and how we're going to keep our schools and students and families safe.
Challenge facing, or what I see is one of the biggest challenges, and everybody knows the school safety, and that's one of my big issues being a former Marine, is trying to establish some type of safety program within the schools and trying to get safety process set up for the schools. Not all schools are going to have the same safety plan for every school. It's physically different. High school is going to have a different plan than what elementary school versus middle school. I have to agree with Jason on this. One of the big things that I'm going to say is a little different with growth. I was talking with Nick Escher the other day, and he said that everybody's comparing Paulding's growth to Cobb County, but we really should be comparing it to Gwinnett County, where they have $1 million houses that are backed up to subdivisions, backed up to cemeteries, with strip shopping centers in the middle. And we've got a school up in the 6th district with 1,300 kids in it. We were expecting 50% growth to our county commissioners, is what we're saying. So I see the red stop sign.
Well, I am not much different from my two other candidates here, but I agree that one of the biggest issues for our school system is school safety. And, as a mom of 2 kids and 2 girls going to school, every day you have to wonder, is the school safe enough? And, we've had some issues recently in our district, and affected one of my daughters more than the other. And she called one day and was very scared that something was going to happen at school that day. Not their school, but the high school. And she was very much affected. I do have some ideas of how to make everything a little bit safer that would be cost effective as well. And another issue too is the growth. I would like to see also some programs, some additional programs in the school, STEM programs and things like that other schools do have, and they're very important for our students to have.
Well, I want to congratulate y'all for showing up on the school board. One thing about it I can say that I'm in my 2nd term, and wherever you go, be the grocery store, somebody's going to ask you questions, and the ones that were afraid to be here, I admire you. I think you're a leg up on them. I guess the question that I would like to ask, it's the first time in a lot of years, and you might get answers since you're the state school board, maybe ever, that QBE is going to be fully funded. And one of the things that our school system does it, I looked on websites, I saw Paulding does it, we highlight how many millions of dollars we're not going to get that the state says we're supposed to get to be adequately funded. So my question for y'all is, how would you use that extra money? Because there's so many pressures on the school board now. You know, taxpayers have been having to flip more of the money because the state hasn't. The teacher retirement increase, we're got what, another 2%, 7% to 9% on us. The health care, which we used, when I started the school board, we didn't pay, and now with our system, we're like around $400 a month per person that we didn't. So I guess my question is, how would you use the extra dollars that you get for QBE? And just be honest, if you're not sure quite yet, just say, I'm not sure, I have to look into it, but if you do know, let us know.
Well, one thing, if we have extra money, I think that we definitely need to pay our teachers very well. That's very important. We need to make sure that Paulding County has the best teachers available, and that they're not wanting to go to another county because they're going to get more money in a different county. So that's one thing I would do.
One of the first things, if QBE is going to be truly funded, I think we need to take a step back and look at our current budgets. I've gone through our current budget, and it's $316 million this year, and there's a 28-page PowerPoint review for the Board of Education to approve. We need to look at how we're spending our existing money first. Then we need to take on the additional funds that we get and start allocating them to programs like safety. We need to figure out what safety program we're going to have. Like I said, each school I feel is going to be a different safety program. This is going to be a cost some way. We're going to have to offset it. And I think spending our money wisely and how we go about our spending, we need to get more in touch with our commissioners. They're predicting a 50% growth. And you may not believe this, but Paulding County has grown almost 1,000% since I moved here in 1990. So growth is a big issue in our county. We can ignore it, but it's going to happen. So we need to spend our money more wisely and be more cautious on the budget.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. I mean, I think we're expecting to see about almost $3.9 million coming back to Paulding County. I think at the outset we have to be mindful that when we say QBE is going to be fully funded, this may be only for 1 year. We may see the legislature, whoever the new governor is, maybe not have the same commitment to fully funding QBE. So I think we need to be cautious about what it is we're going to put money into. I think if there are 3 priorities that need to be looked at, I do think school safety, with the extra money, we need to figure out what is the plan, what can we afford. Are there models that we can possibly test out in some of our different schools across the county? I think we need to make sure that we're paying teachers enough and they have enough resources. They already have enough stress in their life, and what happens in the classroom from a lot of the state mandates that happen. And we need to be sensitive and mindful to their environment, because they're the ones that are on the front lines fighting for our families. And I think third, I think there needs to be a serious discussion to look at whether there's an opportunity to roll the millage rate back. That's not happened, and probably, I can't even think of, probably before I even moved to Paulding County. And I think that needs to at least be talked about, at least transparent conversation about.
Well, I think this is a little bit of a tough question, but I thought it was a good one. Now, you can't hold it against me because I didn't write it. And you just alluded to part of it, but here's the question. With the complaints coming in that the school board did not lower the millage rate again this year, even with property assessments going up, how or where do you see that the school system should cut waste to help taxpayers?
I'll step up for that one. There's 3 ways to solve the budget deficit. You can either increase taxes, reduce spending, or stop spending. We've got to use some common sense. I mean, when you look at the number of teachers we got to the number of supports that we've got, it's almost 200%. There's like 1,800 teachers and 3,500 people on payroll at the school. With my past background in Lockheed, the government mandated that we do risk management and process review to look at how you could save money on programs. And a lot of people, and I want to emphasize this, a lot of people think that, oh, well, that's coming from the state, or this is coming from the federal government. That money's coming from us. We're all paying our taxes. That's where it comes from. So we have to start spending our money more wisely. It's just the overhead has got to stop. That's how you're going to operate with it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of that. I mean, I think there's only about a finite amount of money to go around, I think, to help, in terms of funding the schools. I think, security, again, I think in terms of making sure that, the teachers are getting some sort of raise, which I think with the QBE increase this year, I think that opportunity exists. I think we need to look at, are there potential other cost savings that have not been discussed in the school system around vendor contracts. We know a lot of the controversy has been going around in terms of clean, whether the schools are clean and things of that nature. So I feel like, there may be opportunities to, having worked in business for nearly 15, 20 years, taking more of a business mind, I think, to kind of the budgeting process and looking at other opportunities to cut ways that maybe not so apparent, maybe to those on the surface of what's in the budget.
I kind of agree with both people here, with what you said tonight. And I do think that we need to just look at the budget and be fiscally responsible in how everything is allocated. I do think that you can stretch a dollar pretty far, but there are some issues that we've actually already discussed tonight that need to be addressed, like the school safety and making sure our teachers are well paid for. So I'd be interested to look at that one.
Me. Y'all don't worry about agreeing with each other a lot. That's what good. I think good Republicans can do that. I did this for Lieutenant Governor's debate last night, and one of the points they made was you're not seeing much difference in what we all said. So that's okay. Just wanted to reassure you there. One of the ratings that is tracked for schools in the state of Georgia is school climate. I hope you're familiar with it. You're running for the state board of education. I mean, for the county board of education. But what it is it's a 1 to 5 star rating of how connected the students and parents feel connected to their and supported in their school, and feel like that they're supported by their students. And it goes over everything from how friendly the office staff is when a parent walks in, to how engaged the student is, the teacher is with the student, what their take on that is. You got several. It's published by the State Board of Education every year. You got several schools in Paulding. Congratulations with 5 rated. You got a lot with a 3. You got 1 school with a 1. What leadership can you all provide? Can you think you all can provide, whether that's leadership at the headquarters or leadership at the school level, to foster a climate that's supportive and engaging for children? And I will tell you, because this is the fact, you're as responsible for a school anywhere in Paulding County, according to governance rules, than you are in District 6. You just have to live in District 6 to run for your seat. So, there you have it. I'll take your hand.
All right, I'll start with that one. I mean, my response to that, quite simply, is leadership. I think it's leading as a school board member, and quite frankly, not being afraid to push back when things are not being done right. by the central office. And I think at the same time, making sure that we have policies and procedures in place that allow principals and teachers, as they engage with the parents at their community schools, they feel like that they can communicate those challenges back to the central office, and there's a give and take relationship. I think that, you know, the leaders in our school system, the staff, the teachers, have done a remarkable job. But, you know, we should not accept that there be a one-star school in this county. Every school in this county should be a five-star school. And if that takes making very tough, even sometimes maybe controversial decisions to get that school to be a five-star school, then that's what we should do. Whether you're at North Paulding High School or you're at Union Elementary School, one of the most rural areas of Paulding County, those kids and those teachers and everybody involved deserve to have the exact same education and opportunity at the end of the day. And again, it goes back to me about new leadership, and we need to see new leadership, not the status quo in the school system. I think the county deserves the best, and those schools deserve more than what they're getting now.
I think it's imperative that in our school district that we do not have anyone rated as a 1. And I think a solution to that problem is to make sure that we have open communication with the administrators of the school and let them know that they can come to the board with any concerns that they have. And maybe they're in an area where they don't feel that they're getting a lot of interaction with the parents, and you know, that can be an issue. So I think that is what needs to happen, just a policy of open communication, and that also goes into leadership as well, but that's what I think would be the best scenario there.
I have to agree with Jason mentioning that. We need to change the way we look at things and the way we manage our schools and the way we do business. I made a suggestion to some people, and I said I would like to sit down with the teachers in my district, with the parents in my district, and have open door, just roundtable meetings. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And I keep hearing that the school board only writes policies and procedures. Well, how are these policies and procedures impacting the schools? I want to get direct feedback from the teachers and people on the front lines of what's happening in the schools. And then to hear somebody say, well, you can't do that. I will do that. I'm going to meet with the teachers. I mean, that's the only way that we're going to get this communication back. And it's going to have to start with new leadership. We cannot keep doing the same old thing. I hear that we're graduating 80%. Well, that sounds good until you realize that 1 in every 5 students do not graduate from high school. So the way we're doing things is not working, and there's a stop sign.
Well, I just want to say, for your future, there's an inextricable connection between academic performance and how engaged those that school clients. So if you can't just separate one from the other, you'll never see great academics and poor clients.
Each of y'all mentioned school safety, so I'm going to throw kind of a tough one at you. First, kind of easy. You know, the state of Georgia, you're allowed to do SPLOST with the board with its stakeholders can decide what's put to the voters. And actually, if you decide you want to harden your schools, you can actually use that if the voters approve that for capital improvements, cameras, that kind of thing. But the hard question I'm going to ask you, that's kind of on the list of a lot of people. Georgia allows local schools to allow, do they choose to carry a firearm on school grounds? What process would you go through in making this decision? Who carries, if anyone?
My opinion on who should carry an actual firearm is only a police officer or someone in the military. We usually don't have military at the school unless there would be some kind of something that happened, the worst case scenario. I know there's debate out there about should teachers have guns, and you know, I don't think every teacher would want a gun. That would require them to learn how to use a gun. I imagine most of them wouldn't even know how to use one. So I mean, that's my answer, is I just think it should be a police officer or military.
Well, first of all, we're looking at one issue in an overall security plan. We need to go look at our schools and look at and develop a vulnerability plan of where we're weak in the schools. Teachers being armed is only one small segment of that. Security around the perimeter, bulletproof glasses, these are all fine options, but we need to develop a plan of what we're going to do. To go out and randomly say which teachers should or should not, I can tell you my daughter would not carry one, or should. You better not have one. and she's been around firearms all of her life, but she's compassionate. The football coach in Florida should have had a firearm. But we need to develop an overall plan for our security, not just one item. But there again, they should go through the vetting process of the state to carry firearms in the first place, and then they should stop and realize that when you've got two people in a room with weapons, that's two people shooting in a concrete room. So you've got to really look hard at what your plan is.
So Fred, I think in terms of your question of, what process I would go through, I think number one, I think there needs to be a real community conversation about, should teachers carry, administrators carry, or whatnot. That has got to happen here in Paulding County. I know I've asked for it, many others have asked for, just to have a conversation. There's a lot of parents, there's even a lot of teachers in the school system who have said to me while I've been on the campaign trail that we just want to express how we feel and have a conversation about it. So I think number one, we need to listen to our citizens and hear what they want for each school. Because I think overall we do need to have a broad plan for the school system. I think we need to work with the sheriff and look at what are the overall security plans of those schools. What I support is I don't have a problem, as long as we have a program in place that's voluntary. If administrators want to carry, but they go through a very rigorous state, federal, local process of training, background checks, and mental health tests to make sure that they can handle the situation that maybe they would be put in. But I think at the beginning of this, we have to have a dialogue and be transparent and honest. And as a school board member, I would not be afraid to have that conversation, because right now I feel like everybody wants to tap dance around the issue, but nobody wants to talk about the issue, which is just going to kick the can down the road versus us, I think, taking this thing head on.
I'm from the county just south of you, but this question relates to something we're also going to have to handle in Carroll County because of where the growth is. And here's your question. With the growth in our county, especially in the north part of the county, what are your thoughts on the possibility of redistricting and how it could be achieved?
I knew I was going to have to go first sooner or later. Right now, there is a team that's going to be coming in and looking at our growth and possibly redistricting here in the county. It's not going to happen this year, but unless we come up with some pretty dramatic plans, it is going to happen some way, somehow. It's every time I hear somebody say, well, you can't do that, that just tells me there's an opportunity sitting on the other side of that. There may be other options to redistricting. We need to challenge the school, the state, about how we build our schools. Maybe we could enlarge some schools within the same area. We've got to be creative with this. This is not just a by the books. It's a with the growth that we've got in the north, and I'm in the south. I've got the smallest schools in the whole county. But we have to address what's going on with growth. When you've got as much that's coming into the county and as many students, if you look at, we're going to have 45,000 students if we match what our Board of Commissioners says as far as students in the county. It's coming, and we better plan it, just like security has got to be there, so we've got to do it.
So I'm going to start off answering this question like the last question. Transparency and communication, once again. We know, we've been told by the Board of Education that there won't be redistricting in the next school year. But let's get real. The schools are filling up fast. I know Harlow Elementary School, as Mr. Dean said, I mean, we have 1,300 kids. I mean, as big as high school. And we do have to be creative in terms of what are we doing with facilities. There is no money to build new schools. And we're not the only school system in the state that's coming to y'all and asking the state legislature for money. But at the same time, I think we need to be open and honest with parents in the school system that this is on the horizon. They have hired a consultant. This is going to happen at some point. So why wait until it happens to talk about it when we can be talking about it now and families can understand what is that impact. The foundation belief that I have is that we should be trying to build community schools and try and keep communities of interest together. I mean, that should be the foundation of when we have a redistricting conversation, I feel like, in terms of trying to keep communities together. Because let's be honest, this county is already divided enough politically, geographically, and whatever else somebody wants to come up with. So that's all I know.
With the growth of Paulding County, it's inevitable that we're going to have to redistrict at some point. And I agree that this has to be something that's discussed and planned out well in advance. I know, like at Shelton University, or Shelton University, isn't it? At Shelton Elementary, they had trailers there because there's so many students, and they finally added on. And that's an option to just add on to the schools. I can't imagine that North Paulding at some point won't have to add on, because to me it seems like a much smaller school, at least than the one that I went to in another state. But I think that's going to be one of the answers, because there isn't money in the budget right now to really add the schools. That could be a possibility if there was money there, but I think that they're going to have to look at just adding on some more to some of the schools in the area, so that they're not sitting on the trailers during the school day.
And I just want to, add one more thing to that, but I think we all agree, and the audience agree. I think, as even when we talk about new schools, we need to talk about infrastructure, because we can't get from point A to point B. Those that take kids from Cedar Crest to North Paulding High School that travel Harmony, you know what I'm talking about. It takes like 3 hours to get there in the morning, and I'm sure there's similar instances of that all across the county. We have to fix the roads, we have to fix the infrastructure. At the exact same time, we're talking about building these schools and expanding schools. And again, like Stacy said, I think it all has to move that together.
I can say this without a microphone. I actually took some notes down. Traffic congestion is one of the big issues that we need to address when we do look at schools. Go up on the north side of there, it is unbelievable with the traffic. And being from the south, I kind of lived in the south part of the county, but when I went up and sat at Jason's open roundtable meeting, I was totally surprised at the issue of overcrowding in the schools up there. And I apologize to Jason and the rest of the people on the north side for not paying attention to it. It's going to be a big problem, and there's already traffic, and we're expecting more growth. Work with our county commissioners is a lot better than what we have to help coordinate this, and our state legislature.
The only thing I would like to see is, in addition to, yes, there is a traffic problem with getting to the schools, especially back there off Harmony Road, Church Road. There's only one way in to all three schools. And I'm not quite sure why that was like that when they were built, years back. And I wish that there could be a way to have another way in, because it does actually become a safety concern. We had Snowmageddon a few years ago, and everyone was trapped on Harmony Road, Church Road, things like that. So that's what I would like to see happen as well.
So, on this one. So, one thing that do on a regular basis, look and see what people are doing right. And it's looking for best practices, in not just looking internally, not just looking at what's being done in Paulding County or what has been done in Paulding County, but look at what has been done in surrounding counties and around the state and maybe around the country. It's R&D, not research and development, or rip off and duplicate. Tell me, would you be willing to engage in looking for the best ideas, the best practices, and applying those to Paulding schools? And give me some thoughts on how you do that.
So, my thoughts on that, I think, is a couple of things. I think one goes back to innovation. With very little money in our school budget, I think we need to be as innovative as possible. But at the same time, I don't think we can not be afraid to dream, go big, and try and get the best things for our schools. One example is, just around STEM education, something as simple as that. And coming up with a long-term plan, it's not something that can happen overnight because everything costs money. But how do we move forward in a way to where we can actually have a STEM program in every single school in Paulding County? It may take 5 years, it may 10 years, but we need to start somewhere. I think making sure that the kids that are graduating from our school system, when they go to Chattahoochee Tech or they go to the university or they start their own business, they are in a place to be competitive with the global economy, and I think be in a place to where they will succeed. Because let's get real again, the world is only going to get harder, the challenges are only going to get harder, the economy is only going to become more difficult over time with kind of its ebbs and flows. But I think we need to prepare our kids to be innovative and think big and dream big. And I think going after STEM programs and things of that nature would be a game changer here in the county.
My thought is we need to also look at what other school systems do and kind of adopt some good policies that they have as well. And I agree with STEM. That's very important for schools. I think it's also important to look at programs. There's I Teach program with KSU, and we can incorporate that more in the high schools and really get the kids ready to go either into college, and of course not every child's going to go into college, but to make sure they have all of the necessary skills that they need to make it in the real world today.
Ironically, I sat and did some research on some data on these numbers. Iowa is number 4 in the nation, and they spend approximately $500 more per student than we do. Florida is number 7, and they spend less than we do. The numbers, though, do not correlate back to cost of what you spend per student directly, but there are some fantastic ideas out there. I heard the other day with the state superintendent, we've got state co-op programs now. Not everybody wants to go to college. Maybe you want to work at Hardy Chevrolet and make $20 an hour half a day. And then I, for example, worked at Lockheed. Mechanics on the fly, I make $30 an hour. That's a lot more than I made as an engineer when I started to work. My daughter teaches science at one of the schools and has a STEM program, and it is amazing. But we need to help fund these. To me, it is almost insane that we have a $316 million budget and teachers have to beg for pay. It's just not right. I mean, we're here for the kids, not for the school boards.
We're going to take the audience questions now. 2 of them I'm going to pull. One had to do with redistricting, which I believe they've answered, and one with HB 60, which was arming teachers. So nothing personal, but we're going to pull those because we're running short on time, and they've pretty much been answered at this point. So, welcome those.
Okay, I'm going to roll this into the question that my next one, because it's almost identical. What civic business or advocate groups do you have connections with? What about their appeals to you? What is the specific issue on which you disagree with them? And then adding the question here, which kind of rolls in there, will you actively engage stakeholders in their interests instead of, is that say burning your boat? Yes, instead of burning your boat. That's a lot y'all got to answer. Maybe why don't we just go to this one? That's the one from the audience. Will you actively engage in stakeholders and their interests instead of burning your boat? And those can be tough ones sometimes. I've been the only one on board sometimes. So will you actively engage stakeholders?
I have kind of already addressed that. I want to go to the schools, each one of the schools, sit down with the teachers and the parents. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What can we do to help the teachers in the schools? I even made a suggestion that because of the teachers having to get their paper, I was going to volunteer what the $200 or whatever it is we make a month on the school board to a school, and they said I couldn't do it. And I will tell you that if I'm elected, I will be holding roundtable meetings with the teachers and the parents, and I will be donating what I make back to the school. We're focusing too much on the process and not what the end item is. When you've got 1 out of every 5 students that's not passing, not graduating from high school in 5 years, that's a disgrace. We start out in our math and science test. We're above average when we're in the elementary school. We're 10 points below the state average in math here in the county. We're 6 points below in English. We're 31st in the nation and about, I believe it's 30-something in the world. So how can our kids get a job?
Yeah, I mean, we have to engage stakeholders at the end of the day. I mean, one of the things we haven't talked about tonight is, I think, engaging other community organizations like our churches with what we're doing in the school systems. And I think kind of, those organizations that kind of build the fabric of what this county is and who this county and what we're all about. I think at the end of the day, I mean, one of the cool partnerships I've been involved with being here at the technical college was with the school system and seeing the 2 organizations work together and bring a college and career academy in Paulding County on the New Hope campus that's going to be built over the next year or so. And I think engaging stakeholders and engaging parents and teachers at the same time, that's where innovation is created, because as a school board member, we're not going to know everything. The citizens and others around this county have to share ideas, and I think that's where we get the best ideas and see our county grow for the betterment of our students.
We definitely have to listen to our stakeholders, and I like the roundtable idea, getting everyone together, getting teachers, getting parents together. I would like to, being elected, for people to email me and say, what exactly is the issue and the concern. Take that back to the board. Have a roundtable. I think that's the only way to have a system to work, is if you have good open communication with everyone involved.
I failed to mention earlier, my husband was a lifelong educator and school administrator after that. I spent a number of years both in South Florida and then in Carroll County as a substitute teacher. Tonight I'm a substitute panelist. Quick question. Are y'all's races partisan in your county? Republican, Democrat on the school board? See, that's different from our county, and I picked that up with the questions. Okay, well, here's your question. And even when I was still substituting, this was something that's come up in our county as well. The Board of Education is currently outsourcing the after-school program, ASP, with Learning Bridge and custodial services with Aramark. Both might have saved money, but quality has diminished. Is the money saved worth the lack of quality? If so, where does the outsourcing end?
Well, the ASP programs and having a vendor do that, if people aren't happy with the quality that they're getting with that, I think that needs to be addressed. and possibly change it. I know when my kids were in ASP, when they first were in kindergarten and all that, at that time it was just the teachers, it wasn't a vendor, and it was fine. You know, it was volunteer, of course, but I think that might actually be a way to save some money as well if they're not paying the vendor to do that, and if they have some teacher volunteers that would want to do the after-school program.
I personally think that the ASP program ought to be run by the teachers and the schools themselves locally. It might be an opportunity to let the teachers get a little overtime because the pay rate or pay rate that they're at. As far as the janitors, I can tell you that from what I've seen and heard from teachers that I've talked with, the standards are not there, and it's just like anything else that you have. If you're having your car worked on and they don't do it right, you get somebody else. I personally would like to see the janitorial service come back as part of the county employees. There would be a cost, and there would have to be a major discussion on how you're going to pay for it. There may be benefits cut or whatever to work it back in the budget, but that's employing Paulding County people. That's not outsourcing it. Mr. Whitaker was my high school janitor, and I can tell you the lunchroom staff. These people get to know the kids in the school, so, oops, sorry, I wasn't looking at her at the stop sign.
So I'm going to separate the two things kind of quickly. So I think in terms of after school, and my kids have participated or even engaged in the current after school program, I do agree with Mr. Dean. I do think that it should be run by the teachers, or, you know, if they're going to outsource it out and contract with somebody, why don't they contract with an organization like the YMCA or someone that actually has the intention towards the kids, and there's all kinds of innovative things I think that could be done working with such an organization. I think secondly, as it relates to the cleanliness of the schools and Aramark and the contract and a lot of the debates that have been happening over the last year or so, I would have to question, and there needs to be probably a harder look in terms of the procurement process of how the contract is awarded. I know with our own business and how we do contracts and procurements that quality should be number one. I don't care if you're paying an organization $10 billion. If they're not servicing the schools and they're servicing the teachers and principals and parents, then you have to question the legitimacy of that contract. You know, are we penalizing them if they're not meeting the contract requirements? I mean, we are talking about tax money. And I think at the same time, if they're not meeting that requirement, then I'm sure there are other companies in Georgia and across the country that do the same work that Aramark does. And why do we keep going back to the same vendor? If we can't meet those specific business steps as an organization, then I think we have to look at what Mr. Dean said in terms of do we have to bring it back in-house and then address the budget issues there. But just to, again, kick the can down the road just because we want to save money and let problems persist in the schools where my kids go. You know, I think at times, you know, I don't want to speak for the principal, but I think, you know, they should be more empowered at the local level.
Okay. I will fund, so the question here is, I will fund what's appropriate for special needs children from K through 5. Those are some things are under control, some are sort of not. I realize that because some of them are mandated by federal and state guidelines. But I just add your thoughts on addressing the needs of special needs students.
Special needs is a very special concern to me. One of my grandsons is an autistic child. I have a learning disability, so we need to address it. It's not that the kids, because you have a learning disability, you're not smart. You just learn it. So we have to address those. I will say this, and it's probably very controversial. There are certain special needs students that need special schools. Our public schools are not going to compare a special needs person with severe needs to get into the public and to maintain themselves in the public. So I think we should address what we can do in the special needs area seriously and with an open mind.
I think the special needs program is very important for any school. I'm glad that at Fort Hickory they have a good program. I know they have a lot of Down syndrome children that go there, and they have a good program for that. And I would like to kind of look at the budget and see what's there to make sure that that program is going well and that it's funded the way it should be funded.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with both what other candidates said. I mean, growing up, my brother, he was in special needs classes when we were in high school. And one of the challenges I knew for my parents growing up, and I actually had a parent yesterday, literally yesterday morning, who's having challenges with her son right now, is I think it's just when teachers potentially identify a problem with a child, or not a problem, but I think an opportunity to help a child, and then are the resources and everything there to kind of wrap around that family to make the situation better. And a lot of it comes down to resources, but I think at the same time, I think it's, what more can we do in the budget? Is it really a priority? And how can we make it more of a priority? And again, it comes back to me, communication and I think transparency and having more of this conversation, especially maybe with stakeholders and others in the community to kind of get that feedback of what the school system could and should be doing more of.
Let's give them a hand. A bunch and three good people willing to put themselves down for a massive salary. $200. We rounded it up. Okay. It's a huge personal sacrifice to run for office. Whoever wins in every seat that's available, support these folks. Speak your mind, but take care of them because it's a big deal. It's tough. Scott can tell you how much time is involved in serving the public, and these folks are stepping out there. So we're going to do the closing statements now, 1 minute each. If you run over, I'm going to push you off the stage. And we got another one ready to go after this. Jason, we'll start with you.
Well, first up, I just want to thank my fellow candidates here tonight for making the time to actually be here. And want to thank the Paulding County Republican Party for hosting us and also Chattahoochee Tech. I'm just going to leave you with this, that at the end of the day, I'm fighting for our families and I'm fighting for a better Paulding County. There are a lot of great things that probably go untold every single day in this county with families and teachers and what goes on in the school system. But at the end of the day, it's not enough. And I think we deserve more as a community. I will tell you as a Republican, as an unafraid Republican, that we every single day that goes by, I will fight for you. I'll make sure that your tax dollars are being spent wisely. But number one, I will communicate with you and you will hear from me and have a dialogue just like if we were married. We may not agree all the time, but at the same time, you're going to know what's going on. So I just want to thank you and ask for your vote. Early voting, April 30th, May 22nd, and come visit me if you have questions. Look forward to coming out and meeting you if I haven't already.
If elected, I would listen to and reflect the concerns of the community and work in collaboration with my fellow school board members. And I'm committed to continued improvements of the school system and to taking our educational system to an even higher level. And it would be an honor for me to serve as a school board member. And I, again, like you asked for your vote, I asked for your vote on May 22nd. And yes, if you want an early vote, it is April the 30th that that starts. And just thank you for your time you've given me this evening.
Well, I'm going around the community talking to people. I hear experience. Well, none of us have experience as far as being on the school board, but we all have experience in managing businesses and companies, and which is a new way of doing things. We're going to have to take that and go with it. For example, school security. We're going to have to look at the schools, individual schools, develop individual plans, come up with those. One thing that we should include in that, though, is we need to get our child advocacy group involved. If you've got a child that's being abused at home, he's going to act out in school, one way or the other. Get our psychologist group going in the schools. Bring them in and part of this. Make it part of your security plan of how you're preventing something from happening instead of reacting to it. I would like to everybody to have a special moment for Kathy Helm. She lost her father tonight, so it's she's actually a member of the campaign, so it's kind of personal for me.
Okay, that concludes the first debate. We'll hear the other one.
I'm sorry, one thing I wanted to say, John is running for District 5, because I know the way it's up here, you might not can tell because we don't have everyone. He is running against Trudy Sire and Nicole Whalen. Nicole and Trudy didn't see to come tonight, so we want to give John a hand for coming. Stacy and Jason are running for District 6, and they're also running against Dan Nolan, who didn't show tonight, so we want to give them a hand for coming.
All right, we're going to take a 5 to 7 minute break. If you're a candidate for the next debate, go ahead and make your way up here.